All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cody Tucker Show. As always, I'm your host, Cody Tucker. Be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. So I know, obviously, today gonna go over the Sunday night's Oscars. Gonna do a little run through of what I thought about the night. Before I do that, as always, and kind of, go over how my week has been, what was going on. Not a whole lot to talk about. Have noticed. So I am 30 now, which is, I feel no different than I felt in the past 15 years. Basically. Look a lot different, but the old noodle is not feeling a whole lot different. Have noticed, though, that I have gotten a whole lot sassier in the past couple months, even maybe a little bit more, but specifically once I turned 30, notice I just am not taken. Normally I've been a very passive person. As someone, I think this is actually common with a lot of people who are bigger people. When you grow up and you're always way bigger than everyone, you already stand out. So you kind of want to shrink yourself in some way. So you don't want to ever make a scene. You don't want to ever come across as being, rude, anything like that. You always want to be a nice guy, which has served me well in some cases. But it also just makes me very, just very hesitant to tell people off. That is starting to go away. I thought that would go away way later in life, 60, 70. Seems as though it's happening right now. So, case in point, this may sound like a minor example to most people, but for me, I felt pretty good about myself. So, placed an order for McDonald's for breakfast the other day. 2 days ago. Now, McDonald's has done something. Just when you think McDonald's can't scratch me where I itch more, then they release the fried chicken McGriddle, which I have to say, oh my God. If the smoke from a crack rock tasted like a chicken McGriddle, I mean, I would be S&D left and right to get my hands on one of them. Oh boy, I have spent, I can't order that shit fast enough. And of course I use the McDonald's app, which most people should. Place order for the very simple order. Now, okay, this is all for me. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. 2 chicken McGriddles, 2 hash browns. Probably way too much, but who cares? Place order for said food. I mean, it should take no more than 35 seconds for them to have it made. So by the time I place order, leave, get there, it's been, we'll say 8 minutes. Go in, walk over to the little pickup window. It ain't there. Okay, fair enough. Mornings are usually busy. Also, this McDonald's happens to be in a part of town where a lot of bums tend to hang out. So, first thought, I got swiped. One of these transients came in, saw a bag of goodies sitting there, could probably smell the syrup and fried chicken, which I can't really blame him, and just said, yeah, I'm Cody Tucker, grabbed it and walked right out. All is forgiven for, the son of a bitch that took my food. Go and say, hey, I had an order for blah, 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 say my name, what it is, and everything. It turns into, those videos of Wall Street, whenever they're just screaming at each other like sell, 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 buy, 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 and they're all holding up like paper, and there's just like hundreds of people slammed into this one little room, the bullpen, I guess is what they call it, and it just turns into absolute carnage. That's basically what is going on inside of this Mickey D's. And I'm just, what the fuck is this? I mean, it is 4 things. 2 things, really, just 2 of each thing. So then I see them putting together. So this lady's like, oh, okay, we'll get it. And I mean, not to just shit on people that are working at McDonald's, but even by the old MacD standards, this woman is, my God, like basically a female Gilbert Grape. And a Glenda Grape, if you will. But I'm like, all right, well, surely she'll be able to figure this out. Another 10 minutes goes by. I'm like, all right, what the fuck is going on? So then she walks over and she's like, oh yeah, well, I'm getting it now. I'm like, I can't fucking wait. Then I see her like putting together a bag that is way too big to be my bag. But depending on what's in it, might take it. She walks over, hands me the bag, and I'm looking at him like, I immediately see a bunch of bullshit I don't want. So I'm like, this is not mine. She's like, oh, this isn't? I'm like, no. So then, round 2. Whole thing starts over. Another 10, maybe even 15 minutes goes by. Then, manager of said McDonald's walks over to me and just looks at me and is like, we don't have it. And my fucking... my blood started boiling. I was like... And I normally would just say, the pre-30-year-old me, when she said, oh, sir, we don't have it, I would just say, well, fuck me, I guess I'll go home and start all over again. 30-year-old and higher me looked at her and just said, well, fucking make it. And I normally have been the person who, like, always hates when people are rude to customer, like rude to employees, all that shit. And I don't even know that I was really that rude. I just said, well, fucking make it. And it felt so good. I felt like goddamn Al Capone. And then I'm like, obviously like looking in there watching, I was like, surely this lady is going to just hawk a fucking, throat oyster right onto my damn sandwich. And I watched to make sure. I was like, oh, and all she had to do was basically grab 2. They're already made. It's not like there's somebody back there fucking, chopping a damn chicken's head off and like plucking feathers. And these sons of bitches are already made. The hash browns have been made like months ago. So she just grabs 2 of 2, puts them in the bag and hands them to me. I'm like, how was this that difficult? And I mean, I said thank you, which, don't even deserve a thank you, but I did, part of me did kind of feel bad about, saying that to her, but still at the same time, but fucking, I mean, how is this that difficult? But it just felt so amazing. So I implore anyone who is going through life right now, feeling like you can't stick up for yourself, stick up for yourself. Order from McDonald's and use the app, because there's all kinds of like great deals going on right now. Which I am in no way sponsored by McDonald's, obviously. Boy, what a fucking waste of time that would be for them. But it is like the best app for ordering for any like food place. I mean, like Panda Express is decent, but I mean, you have to go through a giant goddamn rigmarole to be able to order your shit. And also, I mean, if I was in charge of Panda Express, every time someone placed an order, there would be a loud gong sound. They do not do that in the app, which is very much a disappointment. But still. So that happened. I felt very good about myself. Just wanted to get that out there. And maybe use me as an example to do the same for yourself. Because you really should. I mean, it's such a great feeling. Like, there, as much as there was a part of me that was like, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have been, like, rude. But also, it was deserved. Like, she's walking over like, oh, we don't have it. Like I'm just going to be like, well, shit. Well, my apologies. And then just walk out and that be it. Like, I've already paid for it. Like, how the hell? And clearly didn't get it. So I don't think I'm in the wrong in this, but I don't know. I'm sure someone will leave a fucking comment saying I'm in the wrong. Because, boy, I mean, I'm still catching shit for the Jonah Hill comments, which I did not think I said anything that was that out of line. He looks like a goddamn drug addict. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I can't be the only one who thinks this. If you saw that person on the side of the street, if that person was standing in front of a 7-Eleven, you would 100% hold your breath when you walked by. But no, he was in fucking, Wolf of Wall Street, so give him a pass. Bullshit. All right, so I guess somewhat speaking of. So Sunday night was the Academy Awards. I don't know why I watch it. Like, it's just become a thing that I've watched ever since I can remember. Like, I have always, of course, been a massive, massive cinephile. And I know that, like, giving an award out for art is dumb. But I just like it. I like watching the Academy Awards. It's become definitely much more of a hate watch. Kind of the same way that I watch, like, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Massive fan of that show. But there is nothing redeeming about that show. And the Academy Awards are kind of the same thing. It's a lot of people just sucking each other's vaginas and, and then, of course, like, people who don't deserve to win are always the ones who win. So, to go to that, obviously, Oppenheimer wins Best Picture, as it probably should. Now, granted, I have seen, out of all the movies that were nominated, I've seen Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and about 30 minutes of Poor Things. That's it. And there is not an ounce of me that is interested in seeing any of the other ones. But between those two and a third movies that I watched, Oppenheimer was the better one. Granted, I did place a bet that, and I actually have to look up the name, that American Fiction would win. I have never seen that movie, ever. Yet, if you just read the synopsis, that's going to win an Oscar. And apparently it didn't. Oppenheimer won, which is hilarious. I mean, people were very angry about this. So, again, didn't watch Barbie, didn't watch American Fiction. All the other movies I had either never heard of or just looked mind-numbingly boring. So to start things off, old crybaby Kimmel was hosting, which used to be a pretty big fan of Jimmy Kimmel, I must say. As a young boy, The Man Show was pretty influential, which is not good, but it was. That's the reality. Reality is watching old K-Dog and Corolla, just talking about like hookers and then watching women jump on trampolines was very exciting for me as a 8-year-old child. And then he would do like the roast and all that shit. But that motherfucker has turned into such a bitch lately. And even for the Oscars, like, the Robert Downey Jr. joke was a whole bunch of... how... As someone who is a alcoholic, like, I don't drink, blah, blah, blah. I've said this all a million goddamn times. I'd get so sick of hearing that shit. And, Robert Downey Jr. was, pedal to the goddamn metal. But, if I were him, I would be so sick of hearing shit about things that happened like 35 years ago. But of course, and then, if anyone makes fun of Jimmy Kimmel, then holy shit, time to lawyer up. He's just become a very annoying person. So of course he's hosting the Oscars seemingly every goddamn year. Then at one point, they bring out John Cena, which... also not a big fan. The Hulkster, is about as face as I'll go. Like, obviously, I'm much more of a heel man myself. And, and then of course, and then he comes out and, I mean, seemingly butt-ass naked, which I'm sure he had a good old-fashioned cocksock on, a la Red Hot Chili Peppers. But it sure didn't seem that way. Also, there was just something real unsettling about it. And I couldn't really put my finger on it until I was like, oh, he has no hair from the eyelashes down. Not a strand. Which is just kind of weird. And I'm not a particularly hairy individual. Like, what I have right here, this is it. Like, I'm not doing this, like, this little fucking bullshit here by choice. One, if this isn't here, my chin, I mean, I look like a damn sandworm. And this doesn't, there's nothing that grows here. Except, like, a little bit of, like, itchy, what look like caterpillar feet, caterpillar legs, like growing all around here. But it's all, I mean, if you can kind of see it, it's all a bunch of bullshit, really. So, if I could, it would be nice to have like full on beard, go full Charles Manson here. But pretty much from here down, there ain't much. Now, the amount of times that I wipe on a routine basis, there must be just a mohawk going down my ass crack. But there ain't there isn't enough stretching I could do to be able to take a look at that. So, seeing such a large man who I think has a toupee. I'm not 100% convinced that John Cena doesn't take a full body dunk in just a vat of Nair every day, probably every 6 hours, and then just straps on a toupee. And so there's just no way you could be like, why would you want to be that hairless? It's just like Uncanny Valley, like that whole thing of what the fuck? Like something that looks lifelike enough, but not enough to where, like, there's just something off about it. Like whenever you see a robot and you're like, oh no, why the fuck? Like, this, like, why robots seem creepy? John Cena is that. Like, it looks like a person's skin, but it also doesn't look like a human skin. So that whole thing was just kind of weird, but still, I mean, funny enough for the Oscars. I mean, it would have been great if, I know Will Smith is banned, but if he would have went up there and just started slapping his damn pecker, would have made it a little bit more entertaining. I mean, it would not be the first time that Will Smith has. Well, never mind. So, so all that happens. As far as like who wins what, there's no winning. Like, I mean, for the Academy itself, like, someone is going to be angry no matter what. But boy, to be Martin Scorsese's got to be close to 80 years old, if not more than 80. I mean, the Oscars, how long? I mean, it had to have been like 5 hours. It seemed like about 5 hours for you to just be sitting in those uncomfortable ass theater chairs watching your movie get nominated, I believe 11 times, and win 0. And this is not the first time for old Marty. In the past 4 movies that he's made that were like Oscar contenders, or Best Picture contenders, I believe the statistic was 26 nominations, 0 wins. I would never show up to another one. I mean, he should have stopped showing up a long time ago. He's won 1 Best Picture, which is The Departed. Fair enough. But that's, to me, like, not even close to his best movie. Obviously, Goodfellas should have won over fucking, Pocahontas 2.0, Dances with Wolves. But, Wolf of Wall Street probably should have won. I'd have to, like, relook at what movies. I think that was, 2013, 2014. And then acting, I mean, the heat that old Emma Stone has taken because she won over Lily Gladstone. Now, I will say this, and I'm kind of tiptoeing. Lily Gladstone is not that good of an actor. She's not that good in that movie. I watched Poor Things, like I said, about 30 minutes of it. Emma Stone's not that good in it. Emma Stone is basically like stumbling around and mumbling with a weird British accent the entire time. She's basically like my grandma after 5 Bush Lights. That's pretty much like the acting inspiration of Emma Stone in Poor Things. Not anything, to fucking win an award for. But also, Lily Gladstone's not that good. Is that whole movie, that fucking, what seemed like 12 hours, is basically her every 5 minutes sweating and giving herself a fucking insulin shot. Like, how many times Martin Scorsese shows her getting injected with insulin? You could have cut out 90% of those insulin shots and still had a 3-hour movie. It just is mind-boggling. And it just her like, I don't feel good. Like, and then here we go, 5 minutes later, I just need my shot. And then another one. And you're like, oh my God, if I have to watch this fucking woman get another damn insulin shot. So yeah, it's nothing that special. Now, granted, I don't know about any of the other, again, like I said, I didn't see fucking any of the other. No. So Emily Blunt got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which I do think she was really good in Oppenheimer. Now, the woman who won, I did not see that movie, but I've heard she was fucking incredible in it. So, I'll give the Academy the benefit of the doubt that was the right choice. Then, Robert Downey Jr. wins for Best Supporting Actor. Fucking finally. As far as I know, that was like his 3rd nomination. I think first one was for Chaplin, which, holy fuck, he is incredible in that movie. And, keeps the speech short and sweet. Now, the Academy Awards, in their endless intelligence, decides to, during the acceptance speech for a documentary about like the horrors of the Ukraine situation, just say, all right, fuck it, we've had enough, bring out Gosling. And they just start playing that goddamn they start playing that fucking Ken song while these motherfuckers are talking about like just the atrocities going on in Eastern Europe and Russia. Like, it's little things like that make me love watching the Academy Awards. It's not like who wins, who loses necessarily, because, I mean, who gives a shit? I like what I like, and I don't like what I don't like. Like, I don't need, I don't watch the Oscars to be like, oh, wow, I guess Oppenheimer was a better movie than I thought. It isn't. It's just as mediocre as I thought it was the first time I watched it. I might try to go through it again, and it'll probably still seem mediocre if I had to guess. All of them are. Killer Survival Moon was below mediocre. I mean, I can't imagine any of the other ones are anything special. That Poor Things is one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen. I watched maybe 28 minutes of it. But yeah, but it's seeing stuff like that. It's seeing the Oscars who are like, basically, I mean, obviously people who think like their shit doesn't stink and like that they're, this holier than thou group. Seeing them just make horrible PR moves left and right is so funny to me. So when those motherfuckers were giving that acceptance speech and that music started playing, I was fucking crying laughing. I felt horrible for them, but also it's like, yeah, this is what the fucking Oscars is. This is a 4-hour, a 4-hour program that's basically just used to sell products during commercial breaks. Or actually not during commercial breaks, because for some reason there was like a 15-minute Don Julio commercial in the middle of it, which, all right. It doesn't mean anything. Incredible. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. A Moon Man, or it's not a Moon Man. Moon Man's for the VMAs, isn't it? What's for the movie awards? It's like a bucket of popcorn. So that bucket is a hell of a lot more valuable than a damn Oscar. I trust that way more than I trust the damn Academy Awards. And, MTV has been run by a bunch of goddamn, anyways. Nah. Just mind-boggling to me, the whole situation. It's fun to watch, though. It's fun to watch things kind of go up in flames. And the Oscars seem to always do that. Now, they did, I guess they kind of did learn the lesson where for a minute, actually, I think it's kind of going on for a long time, but I started noticing it more like 2008 to 2011, around that area, where they would just start wheeling out these fucking decrepit relics from the 40s and 50s and have them present an award. And it would just, they brought out the corpse of Kirk Douglas to hand out the award. I think it was for Best Actress, and that son of a bitch took about 45 minutes to get 3 words out. He's sitting there with Gary Busey eyes, just shaking his head. It was how anyone could look at Kirk Douglas and be like, that's who should be talking in front of 1 billion people. Amazing. And then they brought out Kim Novak, who, I think, what was Kim Novak in? Vertigo? Kim Novak basically looked she kind of looked like the Edge. Not U2 Edge, wrestler, the Edge. Just not good. Not good at all. Actually, kind of there's something when people get so much plastic surgery that it looks like they have giantism? She looked like the Elephant Man with a Dog the Bounty Hunter wig on. And they still thought, nah, fuck it, bring her out here. And so I didn't notice any of that going on, which is probably for the better. They brought out Dan DeVito and Arnold are in their late 70s, which is crazy. But, still seem to be all together. But anyways, so, I think that pretty much runs out. Cillian Murphy won Best Actor, which, all right, fair enough. Oppenheimer won Best Picture. I don't know if there's really any other snubs, because that's always the big thing is who got snubbed, which this one is for sure. Everybody seems to think is a fucking Lily Gladstone, but really I think you're just choosing between which turd would I rather get put into my sandwich and have to eat with a glass of milk, and they chose the Emma Stone turd. Fair enough. Yeah. It is it's just crazy. And whatever goddamn fever dream. I'll say, okay, hold on. So before I've never heard that Ken song before the Oscars, because I never watched Barbie. The song's actually pretty good. And then, of course, it brought out Slash, or, what may be Slash. Which, anytime you can add Slash to an event, you should. He should be in more events. They should have had Axl Rose. Yeah, but people probably would have thought it was Shirley MacLaine. Yeah, that one's for all the 80-year-olds that listen. So, or Sissy Spacek. Both of them kind of have, both of them kind of favor old Axel. So, anyways, that's my take on the old Oscars. Another mediocre night. There's no way. Like, I remember it being a thing that, like, they would say, like, 1 billion people watch this. There is no way that still happens. Like, there is not a chance in hell that 1 billion people watched that last night. No way. Like, I'm probably the only one in a 20-mile radius that watched it. If I had to guess. Yeah. I feel like I'm leaving off. Oh, and Christopher Nolan wins Best Director, which, alright. Motherfucker needs to watch porn at least once or twice before he films another fucking sex scene. Jesus. That is the weirdest shit. That's still, to me, like one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a movie. And I've watched, like, very weird movies. And that might take the cake for, like, one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever seen on camera. Like, I could watch a video of my own birth and feel less weird. But he won an Oscar, so fuck me, I guess. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey received 0 nominations is really the snub of the year. Like, how does that one slip by? Maybe they should have brought out some fucking ancient has-been to give out Best Picture. Because they probably would have misread it and gave it to fucking Blood and Honey. That's basically what happened with what was it, La La Land and Moonlight. It was Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. Which Faye Dunaway, man, what a fucking, a fall. Faye Dunaway might be one of the most beautiful women of all time. And she's fucking old, so of course, but still, like, plastic surgery is bad now. I can't imagine, like, at the time where a lot of these people were getting plastic surgery, like the Wayne Newtons, Kenny Rogers, Faye Dunaway, who else has a bunch of fucking Joan Rivers, like, they were getting, like, the trial runs. And boy, did it not turn out well. Like, it, it's not Faye Dunaway. She was, she got the beta test. Oh, man. Anyways, so yeah, there's Academy Awards 2024. Yeah, another night of mediocrity, which, kind of fits into the old show. So I guess from here we'll go ahead and move on. Probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode than normal, which I'm fine with. Because I do have some, like, news and shit to go over. But I'm kind of all tuckered out. Hey, how about that? Kind of all talked out for now. So I'm going to take a little break and do the old Where That Come From. So here we go. All right, so time for the little Where That Come From. Talk about, origins of a well-known word, phrase, thing, name, whatever. Kind of go over where it comes from and, a little etymology, if you will. Entomology. Etymology. One's bugs, one's words. Whichever is the right one, that's what I said. So, for this one, going back to New York City in the 1840s. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the place and time, New York City in the 1840s was a wild place. Basically, just picture gangs of New York. That's kind of the gist of what's going on in the Big Apple back in the 1840s. At this time, there was a fella who became pretty infamous within the city, a fella named Alec Hogue. So Alec Hogue was a pretty high-level, pretty successful pimp, whose wife was his main prostitute. To use the correct terminology, his bottom bitch. So Alec Hogue, being the pimp, would have his wife lure in the John and bring him into the room. While they're doing their thing, old Alec Hogue sneaks in, ruffles through the fella's pockets, takes all his money, leaves. Wife and the guy finish up, go on their separate ways, blah, blah, blah. Guy has no idea that he's just been robbed by Alec Hogue. So you would think, Jesus, this guy's got to be getting in trouble at some point. Well, actually, old Alec Hogue used a decent amount of this money to bribe the police. So Alec Hogue had been bribing the New York City police that entire time. Just kept giving him money on the sides, and he stays out of jail. Well, eventually he gets under the impression. So eventually he becomes. Eventually he gets the idea that I have a pretty good control over the cops. I don't need to keep paying them all this money, so I'm gonna stop paying them. Wrong move, asshole. No money, no security. So as soon as he stops paying the cops, they put his ass right in jail. They're like, that is not the agreement. You keep paying, we keep you out of jail. So, yeah, he stops paying. They immediately send his ass to jail, and Alec Hogue goes to prison for a plethora of crimes. Now, we still use Alec Hogue's name anytime we're referring to someone who thinks that they're smarter than they really are. A smart Alec. Yeah, that's where smart Alec comes from. All right, moving on to a little bit of the old half-ass history, then we will get the fuck out of here. All right, so for the first story of the day, man, I know that when we think of politics today, we think of just a series of train wrecks. And you are not wrong to think that. But if you think that that is a modern phenomenon, boy, are you mistaken. So for this one, we're going back to 1864. 1864, Abraham Lincoln. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln is reelected to president. Jesus Christ. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln is reelected as president of the United States, has his inauguration. Abraham Lincoln, obviously, very gifted speaker, very stoic, very intelligent person. He goes up and gives an amazing speech for his inauguration speech. Abraham Lincoln goes up there, delivers this, incredible speech, as he always does. Crowd is very moved. He becomes president. He gets, inaugurated again to serve a second term, and we're off to a great start. Now, for his vice president, Andrew Johnson, not the case. So, Andrew Johnson, for whatever reason, decided to get completely hammered drunk before it was time to give his speech. So, Andrew Johnson is obliterated. He literally stumbles up to the podium for his inauguration to give his speech and just starts rambling. Basically pulls a Jim Morrison on this crowd, starts rambling about the aristocracy and fucking lizards and shit. Who knows? Andrew Johnson just keeps going on and on and on. And Abraham Lincoln is pissed off. One senator, Charles Sumner, literally has his hands over his face. Like, I can't believe this is happening. The previous vice president, a fellow named Hannibal Hamlin, is literally pulling at Andrew Johnson's coat saying, like, get the fuck off the stage. You are embarrassing everyone. We're about to have a damn civil war. Or we're in the middle of a damn civil war, and you're acting like this. So it's a complete disaster. So day one for Andrew Johnson, horrible. Day one for Andrew Johnson is a complete disaster. It does not get any better for him. So obviously we know the next year, on April 14th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln going to see a play, ends up getting shot. Abraham Lincoln on April 15th, 1865, dies from bullet wound from John Wilkes Booth. So following year, Abraham Lincoln is assassinated. Andrew Johnson was supposed to also have been assassinated that night, but it failed. So that drunk bastard gets made president. And Andrew Johnson becomes, quite possibly, the worst president of all time. He is the first president to be impeached. That was something that they never thought they were going to have to do. Well, they had to do it for him. So yeah, Andrew Johnson was a drunk menace. And yeah, possibly the worst president ever. So just find that to be interesting. So next time you see someone, whether you think, I'm not saying anything about any specific president, oh boy, but they all seem to be a bunch of dipshits. The next time you think that, like, wow, I wish things were how they used to be, and presidents were more stoic, blah, 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 they were not always like that. They weren't all a bunch of Abraham Lincolns. They weren't all a bunch of, Teddy Roosevelts. Occasionally, there was an Andrew Johnson. So there's first story. Moving on to the second one. All right, so this next one is fucking bananas. And it's real. So as crazy as this is going to sound, this all happened. So for this one, going back to the late 60s, talking about a band, specifically a singer of a certain band that, very famous, very influential. So for this story, we're talking about John Fogerty and his band, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Obviously, legendary band. If they didn't exist, the soldiers in Vietnam would have been sitting around listening to fucking mosquitoes. That's the, they were like the soundtrack of Vietnam, basically. Like every Vietnam movie has to have, basically every Vietnam movie is bound by law to have at least 2 CCR songs in it. So, obviously, very successful career, but a very short career as a band, as CCR. So, in 1970, CCR releases the song Run Through the Jungle, which, very famous song, again, in every fucking Vietnam movie. So, Run Through the Jungle comes out in 1970. That song, like basically all the CCR songs, is written by John Fogerty. Well, 2 years later, CCR breaks up. When they do, their record label, Fantasy Records, obtains the rights to every single one of their songs. So they technically own all of those songs. John Fogerty is like, well, fuck it, I don't care, I'm moving on. So John Fogerty then goes on to have a pretty successful solo career. Well, in 1985, John Fogerty releases the song The Old Man Down the Road. That song, if you were to listen to that song, it has some striking similarities to Run Through the Jungle. But he wrote both songs, so it shouldn't matter. Wrong. He is immediately sued by Fantasy Records for copyright infringement. They claim that it sounds way too much like Run Through the Jungle. John Fogerty was literally sued for... This is amazing. So, God. John Fogerty was sued for writing a song that sounded too much like a John Fogerty song. Yeah. So it ends up, like I said, so he ends up getting sued. This thing ends up going all the way to like the Supreme Court. At one point, this ends up getting all the way to the Supreme Court somehow. Now, John Fogerty ends up winning, but holy shit, that is a thing that actually happened. There were like, at one point, groups of people having to argue whether or not John Fogerty was allowed to make a song that sounded like a John Fogerty song. Boy, we live in a fucking parallel. I mean, we might be in the middle of a damn wormhole right now, for all I know. But anyways, so that actually happened. Jesus Christ. All right, moving on to the last one of the day, then we will be done. Okay, last one. Jesus Christ. Another thing that I don't understand how this happened and how this is real. I mean, granted, the story that I'm going it didn't come to fruition, thank God, but it got real close. So today, my God. So this story involves a group called the Knights of the Golden Circle. The Knights of the Golden Circle, basically a society of... So the Knights of the Golden Circle was basically this society of complete dipshits founded in 1854 who were very much pro-slavery. They see, slavery starting to diminish. They think slavery is about to go away. They don't like it. So obviously this is, before the Civil War, but there's this buildup happening in the country. So they are trying to figure out any way they can to make sure that slavery will still exist. And their plan was to make a new slave country. This is not like South leaving the North, but it's still the U.S. bullshit. This is completely different. So their plan was to create a new slave country whose capital would be Havana, Cuba, for some reason. This country would include Mexico, pretty much all of Central America, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and most Caribbean islands. They would all be part of this massive country that would be a pro-slavery country ran by the Knights of the Golden Circle. Which you would think, okay, this is all a bunch of bullshit. There's no way that could actually happen. Well, it kind of almost did. So the members of this group were very high up in the political sphere at the time. So their plan... So members of the president at the time, James Buchanan... So the president at the time, James Buchanan, some members of his cabinet were in this group. Their plan was to make the vice president of the U.S. at the time, Vice President Breckinridge, the president of this new slave country. Now, at one point, they start building these castles all across East Texas. And at one point, even the governor of Texas, Sam Houston, Texas, tried to introducing a bill that would keep control of all of this area for the KGC, the dipshits. Now, this ends up all going south, no pun intended, during the Civil War. Way too much going on. The group just can't stand strong. So the group ends up breaking up and going its separate ways during the Civil War. And that's pretty much all, the last time you hear of it. And in case you're wondering, well, who else is in this group? Some of the people who were legitimate members of the Knights of the Golden Circle, some of the people who were actually in this group were John Wilkes Booth, Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, the guy that invented the KKK, Jefferson Davis, the outlaw Jesse James, and John Baylor, the nephew of the guy who made Baylor University. Yeah, wild. So that'll do it for today. I hope you enjoyed, what I had to say and all the stories and all that bullshit. So until next time, goodbye.